Back with a mention of some of the House races again, this time focused on New York, where we are. The Democrats took back 3 of the 4 seats they lost in the House in New York in the 2022 midterms. But Republicans this election did keep a key district just north of the city red, New York 17, which will show you in a moment. You know, bring up the New York congressional delegation here. The shift also just around New York State, the presidential race, the shift to the right is something we've been talking about and reporting on in terms of margins. So we'll get into that now. There you go with New York overall, and still get 14 Democrats and 10 Republicans in the Congress. In terms of the race I'm talking about up in the kind of lower Hudson Valley there, New York 17, it's Mike Lawler, the Republican, 52%. Mondaire Jones, the Democrat, the former congressman, at 46%, just a little bit below 46%. So let's bring in Congressman Jones now, who joins us with his take, I guess, on what happened there, but also some other topics I actually want to pick your brain on if we can. Thank you, sir, for coming on. What about that shift I was talking about? We were looking at margins in all the states, but this idea that a lot of blue states like New York, there was this shift to be less blue, essentially, to the middle or to the right. What's going on?
Yeah, look, I just ran in a district that Biden carried by 10 points in 2020. And it looks like that after all of the ballots outstanding are counted, it may well be a district that Trump won. Or if he didn't win, he came very close to winning. And that is a shift that none of us anticipated. I don't even think Mike Lawler anticipated that kind of rightward lurch towards Donald Trump. This is indicative, obviously, of a broader red wave that swept the nation last week. And all of that was happening in my specific race. I was on the receiving end of the most money that the Congressional Leadership Fund spent through its super PAC against any House Democratic challenger. So a lot of money being spent, and obviously a nationwide red wave that we were a victim of in the lower Hudson Valley.
Yeah, and even in the city itself, the 5 boroughs we saw it. I'll put it up on the screen. The margins in the Bronx, Manhattan, Queens, Brooklyn, and Staten Island all went from left to right, where Trump added on compared to his last run 11 points in the Bronx and Queens, and always Republicans win in Staten Island, but by more. Brooklyn, the margins narrowed, same with Manhattan. So that's exactly what you're talking about. I'm curious about how much you think immigration played into this kind of nationalization of the migrant crisis, especially with the buses coming in from Texas and that kind of thing. We had a councilwoman, New York City councilwoman on, Vicky Palladino, the other day that was talking about immigration, New York City, and how it's become a big story here. It's part of what she said.
Brad Land is living in a dream world. This isn't 10 years ago. We're going to take to the streets. You can take to the streets all you want, Brad. You know what? The American people and the people in New York City, by the upswing that you saw here, they have spoken. Brad, you're out of touch. And anybody that doesn't realize that this city is going through what it's going through, they are out of touch.
So Brad Landers, the city controller, a local political official, a Democrat who wanted to go out and protest against Trump, but her point is now that that kind of thing is out of touch and that story's become a big issue here. Did you notice it in your race?
Look, the issue of immigration was top of mind for a lot of voters in the 17th Congressional District. It's why, among other reasons, I was so vocal in my support of bipartisan border security legislation that was torpedoed, in fact, by Donald Trump and Republicans in the House and in the Senate at his direction, because he wanted to use the border crisis as a campaign issue going into this fall. Having said that, I've been critical of my party on this. We waited way too long as a Democratic Party to do something tough to secure our southern border.
Right.
And by the time we had this legislation to champion, legislation that's being blocked by Republicans in Congress at the direction of Donald Trump, a lot of folks didn't find us credible on the subject. And so...
Yeah, so why did you do it a few years ago, right? You said that was a fair question to the vice president when she was running. Why, if it's so great an idea now to change the asylum laws, you should have done it 2 or 3 years ago. So is the future of the Democratic Party in the political center, more in the political center, as opposed to doubling down on the progressive left, or it's something more complicated than that in your view?
I think Congressman Pat Ryan in the district north of me really speaks eloquently about how this isn't about labels, progressives versus moderates versus conservatives. This is really about common sense. And it is intuitive to the average person that we ought to have secure borders in the United States of America, like any other sovereign nation.
Thanks so much for watching. Just go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.